Hey, what up? Do you like Vulpera? How about the third dwarf race? But really, I think I speak for everyone when I say we have enough elves by now. If you are an old school WoW player that has started the journey back in the day, you might cringe at all these new flavors of each race where it feels like we're just getting a new energy drink flavor every season. Or maybe you are just a boomer that needs to get with the new days of WoW. And I agree, bring in the rats and the furries, bring in the lizards and the geckos, take all your weird, funky, fluffy, fuzzy races you want. But you also have to agree that we have overlooked so many other races within World of Warcraft that should have been playable way before any of these. And if we are going to have every Disney toy marketable race added, how about we get some of the actual cool races with lore and fun behind them? Let me tell you about the 10 best to add, and you can tell me if there is one that should have been on this list by now down below. You're watching a video sponsored by Marcelian Online Patrons, through whom this is possible, or Marcelian would be selling player profiles for a cheese baguette and Flame scrub McDonald's toilets for a +10 boost. Starting off with the most obvious and maybe even already in production, Ethereals. These guys have been in the game since the Burning Crusade, when we found out their homeworld of Koresh was destroyed by the Void Lord Dementius, the All Devouring. And as you may have noticed going into the War Within, it sounds like this Dementor guy is on his way to eat up our beloved Azeroth as well. Locus Walker, likely the most famous Ethereal there is, has been spearheading Illyria through her Void journey since Legion, teaching her to embrace and control the power, a likely very strong plot device for the next expansion, Midnight, where we will embrace the grey morality of WoW, where not all evil is evil and all good is Red Paladin being the best class in the game. Void Elves, if anything, are the students of Ethereals, who learned to control the Void magic. We just finished a raid last year with Nexus Princess Kaivisa, where she actually doesn't die in the fight, but leaves the room when you beat her, with an ominous reveal that we didn't even fight the real her, playing or likely stealing artifacts from Ansarek, a theme that embodies the race of Ethereals and what you could be playing. Although not technically Ethereals, the brokers in Shadowlands seem like just the Ethereals that we have at home. They behave in the same way, they are both energy beings encased in material fabric or items to be manifested in a physical realm, with really the only noticeable difference being that the brokers reside in the Shadowlands while Ethereals are in the Twisting Nether, I guess. Either way, brokers could be the Dark Iron Dwarfs of Ethereal race, some distant cousins or something. Or seeing as how character cosmetics keep evolving with each new race, check out the infinite customization the Draktirs have. Brokers could just be part of the whole thing and showcased through customization. But what classes could they be? This is the interesting part, and we could take the modern woke Blizzard approach and say they could just be everything because everyone can be anything, yay. But unfortunately, I have creativity. So I say Ethereal's #1 class by far is Rogue. And not just because the tier set in Narrow Bar for Rogues was this. They are shady, stealthy, and sneaky as a whole. But just rogues would be boring, so add mage there because, of course. Warlocks and priests, since they deal with all sorts of magic, and maybe priests that they tap into the shadow and void magic are the second most relatable class that they could have. And lastly, only one left, hunters. Easy. They cannot be warriors because their physical manifestation does not embody the strength and rage of warriors. They haven't been raised by Bolvar or Arthas as Death Knights, since, I mean, their soul would have to be placed into a different body, I guess, and that's Warcraft 2 Death Knights and not WoW Death Knights. Maybe you can make them be monks, but harmony, peace, serenity, and meditation are not things I associate with the chaotic existence of Ethereals, and by extension not druids, nor shamans, and definitely not paladins, lol. Also, their capital city can be on a floating rock in the Twisting Nether, just like how Void Elves have their starting area, or even something like Tazavesh, but maybe ethereal and not brokers, I guess. Let's have a bit of restriction and flavor to these races, because next is maybe one of the most beloved races that will bring back so many WoW boomers Blizzard won't know what to do with all this money. I'm kidding, they'll just hire more developers to make a second in-game shop for premium whales only. Tuskarr! Need I say more? Probably not. As someone who didn't really care for Tuskarr in Wrath, the Dragonfly culture they added in Azure Span definitely did it for me. Their lore is rich, their personalities fit well into the light-hearted races of WoW. They can have some of the craziest cooking skills to take into battle as racials, with their capital being in Azure Span. obviously. As classes, warriors and hunters are the first to come to mind. I can see them being healers and priests and maybe even shamans. It's a stretch for shamans, but if Vulperas can be shamans, then Tuskarrs, who are clearly in touch with the lands they live in, can be just as well. Monks for sure, and definitely Death Knights. There's no reason we have Pandaren as Death Knights, but Tuskarr that literally live next door to the Lich King cannot be one. Rogues as well. Listen, they are chubby, goofy walruses, okay, but we have huge bulls and cows as rogues. Don't give me any of that. The thing is, I cannot see Tuskarrs embracing much magic in their culture, and I would hope they never do. It would wash away a lot of their lore, to be honest. If there was ever a race more requested than any mentioned so far, in good faith, it would be the Naga. Bro, people have been wanting to play these guys since Warcraft 3. In terms of lore, obviously we fought them in BFA, and from what it seems, Azshara has been having a change of heart ever since Ny'alotha, and bringing Naga against the ultimate void enemy seems really cool. The devs already gave us Draktheirs that can only transmog belts and shoulder pads, so the issue of how gear would look on Naga doesn't fit into the "it's not a humanoid body so we cannot have it as a playable race" category. And we can take this opportunity to solve this talking point for any future race. Body shape doesn't matter if we want WoW to be a full game of all sorts and sizes, and thinking inside of the box is formulaic, boring, and how we get to the same old content again and again every patch. Naga can coil their tail beneath their bodies and ride disc-style mounts. They can coil it around some Nazjatar flying stingray as mounts, and maybe Naga just don't get to have access to all of the mounts. Is that crazy? To think a 7-foot tall, 12 feet long lizard monster cannot ride a horse? Let's think outside of the box for a minute here and make WoW better instead of homogeneous and samey with every new piece of content. We actually talked and theorized about all of this on stream, by the way, twitch.tv/Marcelian_Online, and you are welcome to come and chat about it all. Imagine the Naga with the capital city being the Eternal Palace. Have Naga Centurions as warriors, and we definitely have all the magical classes from Mage, Priest, Warlock to Shaman 100%. Nagas can definitely be rogues as well, and hunters too, with taming snapdragons already being a thing for the class. I'm just not sold on monks, death knights and paladins. But get this, because you notice there's one missing. As goofy as it sounds, these guys could be the closest demon hunter race we could add. In terms of lore, they were close to Illidan and also former night elves. You could argue that through their slithering movement they could use Fell Rush, aided by some demonic magic to propel them forward, and likely have way bigger demon wings to be able to glide their massive bodies. For the males anyway. I mean, we have Doomguards that are arguably way larger than Nagas that have wings that can get them to glide somehow or maybe even fly. So why couldn't Nagas do that? Also, this could be an opportunity to make water-based combat part of the racials in a way where we don't have it anymore, like permanent water walking or more movement speed and avoidance while on a body of water. Think about it. Dungeons can have lakes or rivers or pools of water, and your Naga mage is just there dodging all mechanics. How cool would that be? Let's get in the big boys now. Ogres should have been a playable race from the start, and don't give me no lore bullshit. Lore didn't apply to Vulperas, Tauren mages and rogues, and if it did, how are ogres less likely? Big meatheads that are a staple of the Warcraft demographic. It could add some much needed flavor. We could have ogre warriors, clearly. Hunters as well. But where it gets interesting and restrictive is the caster classes. They can obviously be mages for some reason. I guess 2 ogre heads are better than 1, or make up 1, or something, they're really dumb. But that's the fun part. Shamans as well, since they were the original units to have access to Bloodlust as a spell. Warlocks, because the Twilight Cult and Cho'Gall already made that popular. It could add some interesting twists to gearing if they have 2 heads but never wear pants. On the vibe of big boys, Vrykuls have to make it here into the game as well. Alliance, of course, and we haven't even talked about factions so far, which is a whole other thing, maybe video too. Obviously, Vrykuls are the proto-humans, just as how Earthen are the proto-dwarfs. It would bring in the Viking fantasy full circle, and with them having ties to the Titans through their keepers, we could tie the loose ends in their stories, since it's clear the Titans are shaping up to be the baddies, and getting a race that has already severed ties with them by being corrupted by old gods would just fit. For the classes, as always, warriors make sense, but also rogues and hunters. Listen, I know they are big, but that hasn't stopped torrents with hooves to be rogues, so leave me alone. Here's the thing, Death Knights as well. I mean, there are also old neighbors of Arthas as well, so of course you can always make an argument for any race class combo, but again, I think that's just boring. However, we could give them shaman and priests if we want to incorporate more Norse mythology into their culture. WoW does priests weird because they have to be in tune with the light. And being in tune with the light can mean they can also be paladins, which is a train of thought I don't really care too much for since it leads to undead paladins. Ugh. Don't give me that. I know you would love that. We trash on Vulpera here on Marcelian Online for plenty of reasons, mostly memes, to be honest. But if there's one solid reason to do it, is because it wasn't the coolest race to come out of Vol'dun. Because that would definitely be your mom. I'm kidding, I don't have any friends. Sethrak, baby! How are these guys not a race yet, considering how much personality and culture they have? WoW is clearly a melting pot of races and cultures inspired by fantasy tropes, mythology, and history. If we can have Vikings and barbarians, why can't we have Egyptian snake people that live in pyramids? Pyramids, dude! Similar to Naga, I won't go into the details of how their snake heads and bodies could fit into the transmog world of WoW. Drakthir's already started to solve that problem 2 years ago. But I will say that a Sethrak rogue could be the coolest thing you've ever seen. Of course, we have to give them warriors as well, but maybe the most common class would surely be shamans. They can already wield heavy lightning magic, and being in tune with the Loa and ancestors definitely fits in their culture. We could add mages and priests and hunters, kind of makes sense for everyone. Their capital being a pyramid in Vol'dun, or better yet, the outside part of Temple of Citralis would be as cool as balls. If there can be 7 shades of elves, why can't we have a third for Draenei? And I'm talking about the broken. I probably wouldn't be entirely wrong if I say that more WoW players might actually love the broken than the actual Draenei. They have suffered and mutated through the pain of torture and slavery, and broken free of Outland's grasp to form shamanistic ties, depending on how broken we are talking about. Rogue is yet another cool trope here, since subterfuge seems to bode well for them. Warriors are a given, and we can talk priests and mages as well. Not so sure about warlock magic, considering what the Fel did to them and how it makes them feel about it. But if we do get broken, what are the chances their capital city could be the actual Black Temple? We did free it from Illidan's grasp, Akama stayed behind. They could have fought all these years to fully reclaim it and use it to reunite their people. And it's dark, gloomy, and broken, just like they are. Fitting, thematic, and cool. And since summer is the season, let's get some more flavors of races, and orcs and humans getting a pseudo big boy counterpart wouldn't be fair to the races that we all know like to play loose with the term fair. Goblins need to get hobgoblins as an allied race. You cannot have goblin culture and lore without the muscle behind the brain, and the dumb goofy face of the hobgoblins inspires a certain amount of fear and dread from their dead eyes and pent-up rage from years of hunching over doorways made for their tinier cousins. We've seen them through Undermine quite a bit, and if we want to close up the goblin lore circle and throw some shade at those pretty races, get some big mean meat big dumb faces into the fray. Warriors, rogues, which I know it sounds funny, but how unlikely would it be that former goblins mutated through alchemy lost their shadiness and innate drive to backstab people? I don't buy it. Plus, there doesn't seem to be too many options for races to be fair, so to be generous, hunters can also be a choice, but we might hit a snag if we go into the intellect-based classes. I think warlocks would make the most sense here, since their dumb heads would mess up any arcane spell and create something chaotic instead. Warlock magic is already chaotic, clearly, so what could go wrong in creating the wrong kind of destruction so long as it's destruction in the end? I could see them as one more class, which is Shaman, and that's because of what will come next as a race. Because if the next race can be Shamans, then I don't see why Hobgoblins cannot be it. And I've saved these last two for last because they can be used to address the current outdated model of factions. Horde and Alliance is dead as a concept. It cannot be written properly in the lore, and outside some massive revamp on conflict, characters, and how flaws are written into a group of people that can always be driven by greed and ego, I don't see actual war happening. So I vote for a third neutral faction, a Denizens of Azeroth faction if you will, because if the Horde and the Alliance can band together against bigger than life threats to their world, why are the rest of the races idle? Naga, Broken, Sethrak, to name a few, would fit here nicely. And you know who else would? Murlocs, baby! How can we live in a world as Warcraft fans where we get to play fuzzy Final Fantasy cute races, oddly humanoid shapes so that nerds can drool over furry boobies, but we cannot actually get Murlocs in, man? How are Murlocs not more of a staple of Warcraft race than half of what we've had in this video so far? Screw logic and reason. If we had those in the lore, we wouldn't have half the shit in the game that makes no sense and is just there to sell lighthearted cuteness to the non-existing new players picking up the game. Murlocs are cool and funny, and if we will keep embracing the let's just make it fun game, as a Warcraft fan, I liked playing Murky in Heroes of the Storm, and definitely the Shaman Hearthstone Murloc hero. We have Sir Finley Murgleton in WoW for crying out loud. Let me be a Murloc Oracle, or Shaman rather, a sneaky bastard rogue like the ones that killed me in Elwyn Forest decades ago. Warriors as well, because Murlocs are bigger than gnomes still. I think hunters and priests would make sense as well considering the type of enemies we've had, and if a Murloc can cast a Frostbolt, can it be a mage as well? And I don't think you are a real gamer if Murloc Warlock doesn't make you smile right now. Make it happen, Blizzard. And last but not least, after Dragonflight, I think we could agree that Gnolls are way cooler and have an actual society and can be the progenitors of a new class or magic type in the decay elements we've seen in Brackenhide. Maybe a Shadow Priest or Witch Doctor style class. But that's for another video. Hogger has been a poster child for pain and low-level adventurers since 2004, and it's about time we bring homage to the unsung tale of the first ever elite encountered in the game. For some, Gnolls can be warriors, hunters and rogues as the easiest to accept classes, but shamans as well, since we have seen the bastards cast lightning bolts before. Now, from here we can stretch it a bit, and even if we stop at this, I would be totally fine, but for some reason, Gnoll priests just make sense. Maybe I spend too much time mingling with ogres, to be fair. Of course, most of these were made with the attempt to bring some cool and fun into the game without addressing the feasibility of it all, to be fair. WoW needs a fresh new coat of paint, at least in the way we think about things, races being one of them. What do you think? I'm pretty sure I missed your favorite race, if not your race class combo you hope to see in this video. So let us know, or simply watch this video on how add-ons are going to be banned by Blizzard, just in case you weren't convinced WoW is indeed changing in the near future, and maybe enough for Murlocs to be playable.